Pacific Ocean. It's the Junior Kekuewa Jr. Show, starring Junior Kekuewa Jr.
Thank you very much. Let's get on with it.
Join Junior along with the Wayne Borhe Band as he makes any kind from Hawaii.
You have no idea what kind I can make.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Junior Kekuewa Jr.
Good morning, Hawaii. Well, good evening. Well, whatever. Okay. Mahalo. Thank you. Hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm Junior Kekuewa Jr. And this is the podcast that asks more questions than we answer, right? Because you know why? Because when you listen to the podcast, like you end up with questions, right? Like, hey, I wonder if Unks is telling the truth or what, right? Because a lot of the stuff in like the last podcast. So I got some feedback, but I'm gonna tell you guys in a second. But first, the attitude of gratitude, right? Okay, so we want to thank everybody. There's people in Hana, Maui listening to us. So, excuse me. This is what happens with the podcast. So Jay, my producer, gives me the feedback. He gives me the sheet, and I can see like where people are listening. Like we have like in real time. Okay, and I can tell you just really quick, okay, I know you guys want to get on with the podcast. I'm sorry, I gotta go into this. But here's the thing, right? The amazing thing is that we are being heard in Hana, Maui. And just for me, it's amazing. Because like I thought there was only like a few people left in Hana, but apparently Hana is flourishing, okay? So when we go into the stats, right, we see like who's listening. And this thing is so sophisticated, right, through Spotify that we can tell where these people are in Hawaii. Okay, so our top town in Hawaii is, actually started Wailuku. Okay, Mililani is actually pretty heavy. People love us in Mililani town. So we want to say thank you, Mililani, okay? Honolulu is also, okay, amongst the Hawaii listeners now, okay? So our biggest listener statewide, like the states in the United States, number 1, California, number 2, Texas, number 3, Hawaii, okay? So, and then they have breakdowns in each city in Texas, each city in California, each city in Rhode Island, each city in Florida. Like it goes like that. So in Hawaii, it goes like this really quick, okay? Because I gotta take care of my local peeps, okay? At the bottom of the list, coming in at the very bottom is Pearl City, okay? Right above that. And this is funny because Hana, Maui, if you know anything about Hawaii, if you get a map and you look, Hawaii like Hana, Maui. My grandparents are from Hana. That's why it's a big deal for me. I have roots in Hana, okay? So my grandparents, I spent like all my childhood kid summers over there, like when I was a little kid. So it's kind of a big deal for me. Anyway, but Hana is at the second to the last, right? And then Makawao, Kealakekua on the Big Island, Koloa, Waihoa, Kaunakakai, Waipahu, Lehui, Kailua, Kapolei, Waianae, Aiea, Kilauea. Okay, I guess that's on Kauai. Kaneohe, Eva Beach, Hilo, okay, Honolulu. And topping off the list is Mililani Town. So thank you, Mililani. All right, you guys, let's get on with the podcast. On today's podcast, we're gonna do something different today on the podcast. And you see, I keep talking about my uncle, right? And there are several, right? But I keep talking about my uncle that always asked me one question. He was my mentor, and he used to always ask me a question. And of course, me being a nephew, I had to, be a wise ass, right? And I always had to question the question because, okay, so here's the deal, right? When you have I don't know, I don't care if it's your uncle, I don't care if it's your mentor, I don't care who it is, right? Whoever it is that's guiding you or providing guide, I don't care if it's your dad, your mom, whatever, right? Question everything, okay? Because here's the thing, Hawaiians, right? When you don't question things, when you just accept whatever, okay, you could be accepting generational misinformation. You could be accepting generational delusion. You could be accepting a false narrative, okay, that just kind of comes down, through the generations. Okay. Now, okay, what am I talking about? Well, you see, a long time ago, my uncle, and my uncle took me to Bible studies. My uncle took me to like a lot of stuff. Okay. My uncle introduced me to, I told a story when he gave me this book on the Trilateral Commission, and he goes, "Hey, you're smart, read this." And that was when I was 13. Now, this was my uncle's way of getting, how when you become 13, right? You guys that are older than 13, I don't think we have any 13-year-olds, right? So you guys know, you get that surge of like wanting to be independent. Like, I got this. Like, I don't need my parents anymore. I wish I was out of the house already. That kind of thing. And so that happened with me too. Okay, but in my case, what happened was, like, as soon as I got to 17, I told my mom, put me on a plane, and I was out of there. And I just, but then that was just me. Okay, but with my uncle, who was my mentor, who took me to Bible studies, who took me to like everything. Like he went to lectures, he went to seminars, and then he turned around, right? And he passed it on to me like in real time. Like, so I had to sit there for like a couple of hours. When you go to a seminar, you sit for an hour, right? And then they have a break, they have lunch, and then they come back and then they have the second hour, So my uncle used to make me sit down for 2 hours. Like, so it's 2 hours straight lecture, right? And of course it was, there was discussion, and of course there was argument because, I'm not the kind of person just to not argue. I mean, if you can talk to me about something, then you got to back it up. Okay, so I always question the questions, right? And my uncle used to ask me this question: what about God? And my question was, what about God? Okay, so my uncle used to like sit down and go into this discussion about God. Now, this is what I'm gonna say. Okay, I'm gonna say that what I started, the journey that I started on, was esoteric knowledge. Okay, now when I say on the podcast, like, however you believe, if you believe in God, if you believe in Allah, if you believe in, whatever you believe, okay, however your belief system is, if you have one. Some people don't believe. Some people, don't believe in God, kind of thing. So some people are like, well, yeah, there's no creator. We just came from, I don't know, plankton. We were bacteria at one point, and it took billions of years, and then we formed into these things that started walking, right? Okay, so I don't believe that. I never believed that. But some people believe that. There are some scientists out there. Now, here's another thing I'm going to say. Now, this podcast may not be for you. And if you start hearing me question like everything, you may want to switch to another podcast. So feel free. Okay, you can come back to the next podcast. But for this podcast, we're going to kind of go in many directions of questions. Okay, because I have questions, and I'm sure, by the time we're done with this podcast, you'll probably have questions. Okay, so I started on this esoteric knowledge journey, right? Because I wanted to know things that the average everyday human does not know. Okay, and when I say this, I don't mean that these people are not smart. I don't mean that, because everybody's born with infinite intelligence. Okay, I'm not inferring that, or implying that these people are, they missed the boat somehow and like they're being fooled, or no, I don't mean that. What I mean is that there's exoteric knowledge and there's esoteric knowledge. There's the knowledge that is out there, okay, which I want to call superficial knowledge, surface knowledge, okay? And this kind of knowledge is there, because you go to school, right? So you have the first 12-step program, okay, that's called elementary through high school, okay? When you when you drink too much and you go to Alcoholics Anonymous and you have the 12-step program, okay? So the first thing you do in life is a 12-step program, okay? But it's not exactly the same, okay? But there's a significance in the 12. in the number 12. Okay? So how many so Jesus and the disciples, how many disciples did he have? Wait, 12, right? Okay. All right. Hang in, Owens. Hang in. This is going to get better. Okay, hang in there. So anyway, right? I start this esoteric knowledge journey, right? And I start looking at, the things behind the scenes. So when you want to get to the root of why people believe this, that, and the other thing, right? Where does this all go back to? Okay, well, for me, it started going like way back and way deep, right? And I got to tell you that at the end of the rabbit hole, okay, well, first of all, there is no end of the rabbit hole. But when you get to the point in which you go, okay, I learned enough, because sometimes it'll scare you. Sometimes it'll scare you to the point where you go, okay, maybe I don't want to know, maybe I'm comfortable with what I think, right? I don't want to know anymore, right? All right, so I come upon all these things, right? And I'm researching all these things, and this took me years and years and years. And I started studying, with my uncle who gave me. So in the old days, there was no internet. So we had to read, right? And I hated reading. And my mother wanted me to be an attorney, right? And I said no. I said no. I want to play music. I want to be, like I told you guys on the last podcast and other podcasts. So you guys know that I always wanted to be an entertainer and, whatever, all of that. Singer. I just wanted to stand there and sing. But anyway, and that took me on this journey. That took me on. So just applying one thing in my life took me everywhere. Okay. And here I am, right? On the podcast with you guys, right? So here's the thing, right? So I go down this rabbit hole, right? Like, why are things the way they are? And this rabbit hole apparently goes, well, it's not apparently, it does. It goes very deep. And it's very real, okay? But I will tell you guys something, okay? When you start to really look at what's in front of you, really look at what it is, rather than what you have been told it is, you will see the world completely different, okay? Now, and I'm not here to burst your bubble. I'm not here to turn your day upside down and have you, questioning your existence and all this kind of stuff. But what I am saying is that, at the end of the day, to coin a very corny phrase, right? At the end of the day, you are being fed stuff that is not at all like reality is. Okay. So this whole world has been set up for you. It's been set up for you. It's been running this way for a long, long time. Okay. And what am I talking about? Well, first of all, if you want to talk about, so let me give you some background, right? So I had to read all this stuff before, right? And it started with the Trilateral Commission. And then I found out, well, nothing works in government like it's, like they say it does, right? And then I thought, well, maybe there's other stuff. So my uncle kept giving me these things, right? And God bless my uncle. He can't talk anymore. He's alive. He can't talk anymore. I don't know if he recognizes me or not. I don't know. He's just here. I don't know. I don't know if he, when I talk to him, like he doesn't smile. He's just there. So I don't know if he, I don't know if he's cognizant or not. Okay. But I will tell you that guy spent so much time with me. And one of the things he told me was, there's a reason why you and I are together. And I was like, interesting, right? And I didn't know, right? I was a kid. I was a little kid. He goes, there's a reason that you and I are together. And the other thing he used to tell me all the time was like, I love you. I love you. That's why I'm telling you these things. That's why I'm showing you these things. I love you, right? And the third thing was always, what about God? So when I had a complaint about something, when I had, hey, Uncle, you know what? I'm gonna call these. I'm gonna call my boys, and I'm gonna send them over there, and hey, dude, we're gonna turn that joint upside down. And he's like, no, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. Because and then the question was, why do I have to take it all the time? Why do I have to? He goes, no, 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 don't do that. So I had to learn to control my temper. And I have a bad temper when it gets to the temper part, right? When I get to that point where something just, okay, I can't take it anymore, right? Like that, right? And so over the years, I've learned to like calm that down, right? And I had to go on this journey, and I had to go on this vibrational journey, and this is what I teach now. I teach people how to do these things through their voice. The voice is the avenue. And like I said on the last podcast, I gave you guys a lot of information. Through your voice, you can get to the point where things don't trigger you, and you can be the observer. And you can flip the switch, so to speak, right? There's no switch, but I mean, you know what I mean. You could just stand there and go, okay, I'm going to be the observer. And then you can just observe. And I don't care if somebody's snapping in front of you. I don't care if it's if they're trying to get a reaction out of you. Because I worked with guys that, I caught on really early that they were trying to get reactions out of me. So I started giving them reactions on purpose. And I was like the observer watching them delight in the fact that I was reacting. You know what I mean? So it was like, yeah, it was like that. So I used to play, and this was a game that I would play with them because they were playing a game with me, right? So it's kind of like I flipped the game on them, but they didn't. They had no idea, right? They had no idea, They just, poor guys. They thought I was reacting, right? And I was reacting, but I was acting more than reacting. So there's a difference between acting and reacting. But anyway, so my point here is that I had to learn to become the observer. And this took years, but it started when I was 13. Okay, by the time I was 28, I got the hang of this already. By the time I ended up, working with people that wanted reactions out of me, and so I was almost 40 years old, and I had mastered this technique already. Okay, and I was already teaching these techniques. I was teaching these techniques already at the time to my students. So here's the thing about esoteric knowledge, right? Let's get back to that. So the esoteric knowledge is hidden knowledge, okay? But you see these things in front of you. But you have been told, because you have been told that these things represent that, or this represents this, and this is generational, right? So your grandparents have been taught this. Their parents have been taught this. Their parents have been taught that, right? And through the generations, it all comes down the pipe like that. And so then there's another generation, right? Now, I have a grandson. that I haven't gotten to know yet. And that's I don't really talk about it. Okay. I don't really talk, my private life is really private and my public life is all over the world. Okay. So, but here's one thing my grandson told me when I first met, him, he was a young boy. And then you see this is kind of sad, right? In my next life, I think I'll be a family man. But this was the result of his grandmother. Okay. This wasn't, he had nothing to do with this, right? But my grandson, who I really, how when you meet somebody and you automatically love them, that was my grandson. When I met my grandson, I like something inside of me, it was just like an automatic reaction. And I was like, I love this boy, right? When I met my grandson. Now, when I first met him, he was very young. And then I met him again, and he came to see me. He came to say hello, but his dad was, working, waiting for him in the car. So it was a very quick hello, and I just wanted to come see you, Papa, that kind of thing. And then he left, and I haven't seen him since. And this was years ago. Okay, but he was 14, I believe, at the time. I think he was 14. And one thing he told me, and I always think that these things are meant to be. And he looked me in the eye and he said, Papa, I'm woke, I understand. I know. And he told me he was woke, and I was like, whoa. I was like, wow. So all that knowledge. Now here's the genetics part of it, okay? When you start learning stuff, and I learned this through various avenues. When you start learning things, you genetically pass it down. When you start accumulating knowledge, you genetically pass it down. Okay? All cells have memory. All of your cells have memory. Okay? Now, let's go to the animal kingdom. Let's take a hard left over here. Okay? Follow Uncle. All right? Follow me. All right? Here we go. All right? Follow me. When you have a horse, see, because I had a horse for 11 years, right? When you have a horse, and that horse is smart, when you breed that horse with another horse, right? Hopefully another smart horse, you get smart babies. I didn't know this. I learned this from the horse community. I learned this from the people that do this like all their lives, like horse people. I'm talking, hardcore horse people, which I was not. I was the guy who had a horse, signed checks, went down and rode once in a while. And then I decided to commit, right? Because I wasn't being grateful. That's another podcast. But I learned more from a horse trainer, from this guy that I really hold dear in my heart, right? As a man, so it's like not an emotional thing, you know what I'm saying? But in my heart, man, I have the most respect, and I call him my sensei. I used to call him my sensei. And in my mind and my heart, he's still my sensei. And the things that he taught me, I still think about, right? But he taught me more about life through horse training. Okay, now it doesn't matter how you learn about life. You can learn through Aikido. You can learn through archery. You can learn through any avenue, okay? I teach through the voice. He taught through horsemanship, okay? Equestrian horsemanship, right? So he taught me more about life, and he connected all the dots for me. Like everything my uncle taught me, all this stuff and whatever, like esoteric knowledge, all this stuff, right? So he made sense of it all through horse training. So one thing I learned from him was like, yeah, when you train a horse and you train that horse like, to be a really, really good horse, when that horse has babies, the babies are going to be smarter. So naturally, when my grandson told me this, I'm like, wow, okay, maybe this was all meant to be, right? So anyway, and I don't know what my grandson knows. I still don't know. I still haven't met my grandson to sit down and have a discussion. It's been just brief hellos and goodbyes all these years, okay? And please don't feel sorry for me. This is just the way it is. This is my life, okay? So, don't be like, oh, poor Junior. No, it's okay. It's going to happen when it happens, okay? But I can tell you one thing. When my grandson and I have a discussion, it's going to be very cool, okay? Because I know he knows, because I know. All right, now let's get back to that part of the podcast. So, esoteric knowledge, hidden knowledge, things that the normal everyday guy doesn't get. Why don't they get it? Well, here's the first thing. Let's talk about why it doesn't happen to more people. How come more people don't know these things? If it's out there and the information is out there, how come more people don't know? Well, here's what happens, right? Like I said, you go through your first 12-step program, okay? And then after your 12-step program, what do? You go into your 4-step program, okay, or college, right? And then there's another, if you want a PhD, there could be 4 more years. If you want medical school, there could be 4 more years, okay? But whatever it is, you get your degree, okay? Let's say you go 4 years and get a degree. Okay, good. Now, what do? Well, you jump in the corporate world, you jump in whatever world, you become a dentist, you become whatever doctor, whatever profession, right? Nurse, whatever, anything. And now you're doing that. You're kept busy. and you have to pay off your student loans. You have to pay bills. Maybe you got your degree, and then okay, now you got a good job, and then now you got married. Okay, now you got to do that. Okay, now you got to raise children. Now you got life happens. Okay, so do you have time? Do you have time to research? Do you have time to learn? Like learn for the sake of learning and not learn for the sake of employment. Most people, the majority of people, don't go to college to be smart. Okay? Most people go to college to learn a specific job. Okay, so they can qualify, so they can whatever, get in, right? All of that. So what I did, right, as soon as the internet turned on, right, and I remember that my first, I don't want to tell you the first experience I had, okay, but I was in college. I went to college for a year. And while I was in college, right, this guy, I worked in the computer lab, and I studied in the computer lab. And what we were doing, we were learning how to put together DVDs. And there were 7 layers to this thing, right? So there's the audio layer. I'm not going to get into that, but there were 7 layers, all this stuff, and we were learning all this stuff because we were going to learn how to manufacture DVDs, and we had to learn everything of how they were put together and whatever. So I started on that journey, right? But I dropped out of college. And, like I said on the podcast before, when I did that, my uncle said, that's the best thing you ever did. And, and I was like, what? But I dropped out of college to take like this, what I considered to be this dream job in entertainment. Well, that I thought was going to lead to entertainment, which it actually did. Okay, in the long run, it actually did. But it didn't go the way I thought, right? Anyway, so I was in the computer lab. The guy goes, hey, you want to see the World Wide Web? And I'm like, what? Like, you want to see the World Wide Web? And I'm like, okay, what is that? He goes, oh, it's this thing, man. It's called the World Wide Web, because that's what they called it originally, right? And he goes, you can search, you could get anything out of this. You could search any kind of information or whatever, right? And all I will tell you guys is this, we were college students. I was a little older because I didn't go to college until later. Okay, I didn't go right out of high school. I had other adventures. I was more of an adventure person, so I had other adventures. But anyway, so this guy pulls up this picture because there were photo files, there were documents, there were it's not like the internet is now. This was the primitive beginning of the internet, and I can only say that the picture involved pornography. Okay, pornography. That's as far as I'm gonna go. And we keep the show clean because we got kids listening. So it involved that, right? And I saw it and I'm like, whoa. And it was pretty graphic. And I was like, wow. I said, you can get anything on there? He goes, yeah, anything. And so he showed me other things like legit, regular everyday stuff, right? But because we were dudes, yeah, I guess he just, he pulled that up first. So he was a dude, so anyway, and so we were doing that, right? So let's fast forward to when the web really started working well. Let's fast forward to when YouTube was there, when you could watch lectures from universities, when you could, have access to more information. Okay. So this is years later. Now, and this is, I want to say it was about, from the time I went to college to the time I started seeing YouTube and stuff in full swing was probably 10 years. Less than 10 years. It was maybe five or 6 years, something like that. And so I take this dream job and, what I thought was a dream job. And it actually was one of the best learning experiences of my life. And so I did that, right? I went there. And then when the internet, came like full swing, I started to research all this esoteric knowledge that I had read in hard copy. And it was there. It was all there. People started publishing all this stuff, online. So, anyway, you know, you start questioning, right? And if you have questions, you can find just about anything online. But here's the other side of that coin. You're also going to find things that support your belief system. Okay? So let's say there's two ways to believe, and there's A and there's B. You're going to find things that support A, and you're going to find things that support B. And you have to decide which one you can believe, A or B, right? Okay. Now, I got to tell you that back in the old days when there was print, okay, when we had to receive information in manila folders, that kind of thing, and read the documents, there was not any disinformation. So having that foundational knowledge of the things that I was going to research, right? When I saw disinformation, I recognized it as disinformation. Okay. Now, along the way, right? There's my uncle who's not interested in becoming computer savvy. He was doing other things. So I went the computer route. I went the digital route. So I'm researching, I'm watching lectures and all of that. It's not the most popular thing to do, right? Because you have very few people to talk to. Like right now, I have this one guy that I can really have a solid conversation with that's knowledgeable enough, right? And, other people kind of give me some looks when I start talking about this stuff, right? But not my clients. My clients are very grateful. So when people come to me for life coaching, they're very grateful because I can apply this knowledge and I can apply it to help their lives. And so that's what they like about it, right? And they might not agree with everything or be familiar with everything, but then they can do their research and then they find stuff and they go, oh yeah, that's what Junior was talking about. So here's the thing, right? When I started doing my research, along the journey, right? There's still my uncle. He was still healthy. We still had discussions. And he always used to ask me, what about God? What about God? And my question was, what about God? So, and what I meant by that, what about God? Is that I believed in God, okay? I just didn't believe the way they were feeding it to me, okay? And I'll tell you why, okay? God is very real in my mind, in my heart, okay? I belong to God. But let me preface this with a little thing, right? Okay, the way I was introduced to God was through fear, okay? And it was like a threat. It was like, you need to do this or else. You need to be this way or else. You need, right? That kind of thing. So when I was a kid, right, there was a whole bunch of fear. Okay, and I'll never forget this one lady. She was a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm not hating on Jehovah's Witnesses or anything. In fact, I used to support her because I was like 12, right? And she would come to the door, and she would be selling their magazines, Watchtower. And I guess because she was an old lady, and because I wanted, to support her, I don't know why. I supported a lot of people when I was a kid. I don't know. And so Mom, give me some money. I gotta take care of this lady. I gotta buy her magazines. And she would sell me maybe two magazines a weekend or something, or every other weekend. Something, it wasn't every weekend. It was like maybe she would come around once a month or whatever when they had the publications, right? And so I was like, Mom, give me money. Take care of this lady. And I used to stand there on the porch, and she used to talk to me. And I used to take it all in, right? And she used to, talk to me about how the Jehovah's Witness people believe. And one thing I learned about her, that lady, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, was that they really knew their Bible, okay? They really knew, what was in the Bible. So she could, quote stuff, and, boom, it was there, And I know people now that are Christians that know their Bible, so, but that was my first encounter, right, with her. And so I used to buy these magazines. Okay, now what happened was like, fast forward, right? Because she was telling me the world was ending. And this was when I was 12. Okay, I'm a little older than 12 right now. Okay. And we were living in the last days. So back then, okay, we're like anytime now, Jesus was going to come in the clouds, okay, and it was over. And I was like, I was scared. I was scared. I was like, oh man, I cannot live my life. Like what? Like Jesus coming now? You see, and I had always loved Jesus, and I always I felt sorry for Jesus. Like that's what I felt was sorrow. You know why? Because when I would walk into a Catholic church, and we were Catholic, right? I was a baptized Catholic. Whenever I would walk into a Catholic church, I would see like this huge crucifix, right? And Jesus, right? He was like nailed to the cross. And I remember feeling so sorry for him. That's what it brought. It brought sorrow. It brought a low vibration to me, like every time I walked into the church. Then as I got older, it kind of looked like a threat to me. It's like, when I started like I don't know when I started I think it was in my teenage years, it started looking like a threat. Like when I walked into the church, it was like, if you don't do what we want you to do, you gonna end up like that. And that was the feeling. That was the feeling I got, right? And I went to First Communion. I went to Catholic school. I went to, the whole thing. And my mom pulled me out at a certain age, and then I went to regular school. But public school, because to me, it was like, it was neither here nor there. I did not care. I knew in my heart where I wanted to go. I knew in my heart what I wanted to do. And now that I look back, like when I from today backwards, like I look back, I did everything. I've done everything. I've experienced everything that I ever dreamed of doing. Now I'm fulfilling my life purpose. Okay, because now, life purpose popped up and go, hey. And I had to turn around and, I had to look, right? Pay attention. You know what I mean? And God always does that. At some point in your life, God is going to go, hey, you belong over here. And God will put you over here. Okay? You can go anywhere you want in life. Hawaiians, remember Unc said this. You can do anything, go anywhere, you have free will. Okay? And you may get lucky with something. You may make a lot of money doing one thing. Okay? Because when I was a kid, my mom told me, you'll never make any money playing music. Okay? And I couldn't accept that. I did not accept that, right? But here's the thing. She was right. She was right. If I had stayed the way I was, like, gigging musician, doing gigs, they're still making the same amount of money as they did when I graduated high school. So if I did that, right, it would have stayed the same. But that's not what happened. It involved marketing. It involved other things. And these things were things that kind of revealed themselves to me along the way. So along the way, right, marketing, I didn't think anything about marketing. I didn't know anything about marketing until I met this one guy. And he was my marketing guru, right? And he taught me marketing. It was a very short time that I knew him. It was just a couple years. But in those couple of years, I learned more from him than if I went to a marketing class in college. Like, this guy was gifted. He brought Pogs to Hawaii. And if you guys are old enough, I know there's a few older people like my age. You guys remember Pogs, okay? Because there's a handful of people in Hawaii my age that listen. All right, if you remember that, he's the guy that brought it to Hawaii. So this guy was sharp. This guy was, oh man, I can't even tell you. And I've been looking for this guy for years. First of all, to thank him. Second of all, to show him what I'm doing now. Because, when somebody mentors you, right? And I know I know this for me anyway. Like when I mentor somebody, they always come back. Oh, uncle, guess what I'm doing now? And they show me. or they show me their promotion, or they show me their career, and it makes me feel so good. I can't even tell you. Okay. Now, being a teacher, you don't get millions of dollars dropped in your bank every day. It's not like that. And you can, like Tony Robbins is a teacher, millions of dollars just kind of find their way to his bank, right? But the success rate for clients is what you look at. So you're talking quantity versus quality in that case, right? And so yeah, I rather have quality. I rather teach a handful of people that get uber successful rather than uber amount of people that 3% of them succeed, that kind of thing. But anyway, so I'm doing this over here right now, and when I look back at the story that we were being told, all kinds of stories, right? So there's that Jesus story that we're being told. There's all these different things. There's different religions. There's different belief systems. There's when you get online, you can go research mud floods. You go online, you can research Satanism and what they're doing, and what everybody's represented. Everybody has their stuff. Everybody's there. Okay, but when you really look at everything, not everything adds up. Okay, so here's some questions. So these are questions that I had, right? So I'm like, okay, if that guy that I'm seeing up on the cross that the Romans crucified, right? Because it's in the Bible, the Romans, right? And they crucified him, right? And I'm going, if that's Jesus, then why is he hanging from a pagan Tammuz cross? A Tau, T-A-U, right? I don't know. I just have questions, Hawaiians. Go look it up. Go look it up. And then if his name is Jesus, right? I see the translation, the transliteration, right? I see how it comes down. I see how it comes down from the Hebrew to the Greek to the English, okay? To me, that doesn't add up either, right? Because then who is Yahusha, right? And then who is Yahuwah? And then who is, yeah, you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So I had all these questions, right? All right. So let me just, kind of run down the two sides of things that I had questions on. Okay. And hopefully you have the answers. Hopefully you receive the answers. Okay. So there's Yahusha and there's Jesus Christ, right? And allegedly, okay, I'm just going to say allegedly, Jesus Christ is based on Yahusha. Okay. But the things that they show us, right, are different. Okay. So if you worship Jesus Christ and you worship on Sunday, then why not on Saturday or Shabbat or the Sabbath, which is Saturday, right? Okay. And then it kind of goes from there. It just kind of goes down. And, so if you want information on this stuff, if you want, it's like, hey, Junior, can you email me that stuff you was talking about? Go ahead. Because we had this discussion when I mentioned the little esoteric knowledge, right? I had tons of questions and people emailed me and stuff. And so, and there's different characteristics of these two people, okay? And then when you really look at it, you go, hey, wait a minute. Do all roads lead to Rome, and do they have their own version of things? And do they control the realm, okay, or the world? And if so, what about politics and the Jesuits? And then what about? And it goes deeper. It goes pretty deep, Hawaiians. Okay, but these are just questions, right? And I had, I don't know the answer per se. I don't know the answer as far as like I've been there and shook hands with the Jesuits that are, doing all this stuff. And then you look at the colleges, which are all Masonic, right? They're all Masonic colleges. Most college students do not understand why they graduate with a mortarboard on their head. They don't even know they're wearing a mortarboard. Okay, this is my college cap and it has this square on it, and then the tassel ceremony from left to right, whatever. That kind of thing, right? So there's all this symbolism, right? Here's what happened. So along the way, my uncle is asking me, what about God? What about God? Right? And I'm like, what about God? Because in my mind, right, I'm like, I acknowledge the creator. I did not pop out from millions of years of bacteria. That's not me. I was created somewhere. My ancestors were created somewhere, right? So I believe in creation. Okay, when I looked at Darwinism, even as a kid, I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Like, okay, but they have these things there. Okay, and to a certain extent, science is a religion. To a certain extent, okay, there are very, very scientific, facts, and it's very solid science out there. I'm not dismissing science as a whole, but part of science is a religion. Okay, we're not gonna go deep into that. Do your research. Go look, and check it out. Okay, so now, and I'm not talking about like whether we landed on the moon or not, although we could get into that one, but that's not a podcast. I'm not talking about whether there's a dome or whether we can't get out of the. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. Okay, but we can have a discussion on not a podcast. It's not a podcast, always. Okay, but I will tell you one thing, right? After learning all this stuff, I mean, really, I went back, right, and my uncle would ask me, "What about God?" And then I would articulate what I've learned, and then my uncle would say, "Well, you're learning. You're getting it slowly. You're getting it, right?" And I'm like, what does he mean I'm getting it? You know, like all this research, like all this stuff. So one day, I tell my uncle, you know what? All this stuff. And this was after I had been successful with whatever it is that, whatever you call success. But after I achieved my goals, let's say it that way, because I'm not trying to flex or anything. But after I achieved my goals, right, I went back to my uncle one day, and the topic was, the topic was like all of these things that he had me learn, right? And what a waste of time this was, because, here, and success will do this to you. Well, let's just say, when you accomplish your goals, okay, you can get a little cocky. All right. And I was only cocky in the way that I was like, because I was, my whole thing is like showing other people like, hey, if I could do this, you could do this. If I can get the new car, you can get the new car. I slept on a sidewalk, for crying out loud. If I can do that, you can do anything. Right? A lot of these guys, they brag, oh, I'm from the housing, or, but they wear it as a badge of honor. Okay. There's no honor in poverty. There's no honor in having nothing. Okay, if you have nothing, you should be ashamed of yourself, and you should put on your working boots, get out there and do something, right? All right, so that's just in my mind. That's me. Okay, that's the way I feel. So a lot of these guys would play that card with me, right, or around me, in my presence, and I would be like, inside, I wouldn't say anything. I'd be polite. I'd be nice. Inside, I'm like, pfft, I slept on a sidewalk. I slept on a sidewalk with a blanket on the cement in the cold, freezing, bone-chilling, whatever degree it was. It's Hawaii, so it wasn't that cold. You know what I'm saying? But when it gets down to 68 degrees, 66 degrees in the winter, it can be a little cold. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, when I got to achieve my goals, when I turned my life around, it took a lot, Hawaiians. I had to grab that steering wheel and pull hard it takes a lot to turn a life around, okay? And but now that's what I help people do. And I help successful people turn their lives around at the root level, at the base level, okay? And that's what you can do through your voice, okay? And it's all energy, frequency, vibration, and velocity, okay? Nikola Tesla taught us about the first three. Okay, mine is velocity. That's what I add to it. But here's the thing, right? When I did that, right, and I accomplished these goals, and my uncle's like, what about God? And I'm like, what about God? God got me here, And my uncle's like, well, you're slowly getting it. At that point, I told him, and we were having a glass of wine at the time, and I told him, I said, Uncle, you had me study all this stuff, all this esoteric knowledge, all this intergovernment dealings and how the government works and all this stuff. And yeah, a lot of it is looked at as conspiracy. And I said, this will never amount to anything, and I've wasted all my time. Because look, I achieved all of this anyway. And all I did was pray. In the beginning, all I did was pray. That led to, more things, right? And the prayers kept being answered. And all I did was pray some more. And then at a certain point, right, around 2008, the prayers were one thing. And then I added the affirmations and the visualization and the vocalization and all of these things, right? So I added these things and to the prayer. And I still do these things. I said my prayer this morning. I still do the affirmations. I did my affirmations this morning. I still do the vocalization, right? I do it with my clients because I demonstrate it and I inspire them by doing it. So when I do it, they do it more. When I do it more, they do it more. They heal, I heal. You see what I'm saying? Everything in the universe works both ways. Nothing works one way, Hawaiians, okay? Everything works both ways, okay? But I stay healthy in that respect, in the vibrational aspect. My vibration stays high. I attract, they attract, everybody win, win, win all the way around. And that's the way God works, okay? Or the universe, if you want to say that, however you believe. And I always say however you believe, okay? But the way we're presented with things is very, very different, okay? I'm just going to leave it there. But my uncle, right? When I told my uncle, I said, Uncle, this wasted all of my time. Like I wasted years researching this stuff. I wasted all this time. And my uncle goes, no, you wait. You're going to see it. And I said, Uncle, I'm never going to see it in my lifetime. And without hesitation, he turned and he looked at me and he goes, oh, no, you wait. Okay. Now, this was somewhere around, and this was before he had his health complications. So I want to say this happened around 2012, 2013, around that time, maybe 2014, if we're being generous. Okay. Maybe around that time. And guess what happened in 2020? In 2020, when the pandemic happened, everything my uncle had me study came out. And people were going, what? We were being lied to all this time? What? All the conspiracy stuff, right? So the conspiracy stuff became reality. A lot of the conspiracy things, like people were, wow, that is true. Like, wow, I thought that was a conspiracy. I thought these people were crazy. I was one of them, right? They thought I was crazy. And they go, wow, I thought that was like they were imagining things. No, it actually turned out that those conspiracies became truths. And right? And till today, the tables have been turned. And till today, people recognize the truth for what it is. They can see the truth. See, the thing about human beings is they can see the truth. You have to lie to a human being. You have to. So human beings naturally can discern truth from fiction. Okay. But you have to mix a little bit of lie, or a little bit of truth, I should say, into a lie in order for a human being to be fooled. You have to mix. You have to do that. Okay. Otherwise, the lie will not work. Okay, try it. Try it on your kids. I teach kids, right? So when kids ask me questions, I cannot lie to them. They know right away. Kids know instantaneously if you're lying to them. And they will call you on it because they're kids, right? So like when I taught thousands of children in 35 years. Okay. And I can tell you that when I talk to a child, I have to give them the facts because they know. and you can see it in their face if you're not accurate. Okay. And because there's a lot of things, right, that I didn't want to answer because they're trade secrets and their parents are sitting right there. Right. And one of the trade secrets that I always had, right, was like, Uncle, how old are you? Right? That kind of thing. And here's the reason why. I can tell you why it was a trade secret. Because if you had put your real age online and you were like, say, over a certain age, people that you really wanted to hire you probably would not hire you because they wanted somebody younger. Why? It's business. So you could last longer. Okay. Nobody wants to hire somebody that's, over the line, that kind of thing. But that's just an example. But there were many times, right? But what I'm saying is you got to mix a little truth in with a lie when you're telling a human being a lie. So I told my uncle that, right? In 2020, all this stuff happened and I'm like, whoa. But by 2020, my uncle was non-responsive. And I could not go back and tell my uncle, you were right. Thank you. I love you. I could not do that. I could tell him, I told him I loved him. I don't know. I don't know if he really understood that or not. But everything he said was true. And the key thing that he said was, you and I are together for a reason. And I want you to look at the people around you, Hawaiians. Look at the people around you. And just realize, okay, number one, God is real. And number two, the people around you are around you for a reason, whether you think so or not. Okay, because, sorry, Hawaiians, I gotta go. Okay, because Hawaiians, at a deeper level, we don't have time to get into it, but at a deeper level, in spirituality, people group for a reason. That's right. And you can be together again. You guys going to group together again, and that's not a podcast. Hey, we want to thank Brother Randy's sister Jerry at Island Club and Spa in Kaka'ako. Also, AFM Hawaii Music, Mr. Darren Chinen and his music, download it. You can hire him at afmhawaiimusic.com. Also, the Voice Master family of service companies. Till next time, I'm Junior Kekuewa Jr. saying mahalo and aloha.